smothered it. That's better. Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you please rise and sing with me our opening hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit. The words will appear on the wall. And our wonderful musical director, Sherry McCamley, will play it for us. Good morning again, and welcome to Heritage Universalist Unitarian Church. Whether you're here in the sanctuary attending today by Zoom, or perhaps watching a replay of this service sometime after today, I am Bob Lamb, a member of Heritage, and I am your worship associate for today. Heritage is a Unitarian Universalist church in the Universalist tradition. If you don't know what that means, talk to any of us afterwards. We have no dogma or creed that you're required to follow. We are here to provide compassion, love, and community to all who would enter. If you are new to Heritage, a special welcome to you. If you come seeking acceptance of who you are, you'll find it here. If you need encouragement on your path, you'll find it here. If you need someone to hear your story, you will find them here. If you simply need a safe place to sit surrounded by love, you will find it here. We would like you to sign our guest book and get a name tag from the ushers. If you would like to know more about the church or maybe take a tour, today's board greeter, Gary Wilson, can help you with that. You can find him in the entryway after the service. If you are visiting online, hello Zoomers, please go to our website, huuc.net. There you will find lots of information about our church. I would note at this time that it is the 5th day of Christmas in that old tradition, and therefore everyone should be out buying 5 gold rings. Everyone should have received an order of service. On the back you will find announcement about things going on in the church community. At this point, please turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices so they do not interfere with our hearing assist devices or otherwise embarrass you at an inappropriate time. Our senior minister, Reverend Bill Gupton, is not with us today. Leading our service will be the Reverend Jennifer Gracen. Reverend Jen is the interim minister of St. John's Unitarian Church here in town. She enjoys working with congregations who are finding their way through a transition. Reverend Jen is a lover of reading and a deeply geeky person who has led an online Dungeons and Dragons game ever since COVID. She lives here in Anderson with her wife and 3-year-old daughter. Reverend Gracen will now call us to worship.
Our chalice reading this morning is by Reverend Amy Carroll Webb. We light this flame for the art of sacred unknowing, humbled by all we cannot fathom in this time. We come into the presence of what we do know, perhaps the only thing we can ever know, that love is now and forever the only answer to everything and everyone in every moment.
Now, back on your feet again. And let's sing and dance, if you feel so moved, to hymn number 311, Let It Be a Dance. this covenant, we affirm that love is the spirit of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine, thus to be covenant with each other and with God. Be seated. There is no children's programming today. Children are always welcome in our sanctuary. If you have children with you and you think you need to take them out of the sanctuary, the Great Hall is open and our family sitting room in the back is open. There are also always packs of entertaining things for children to do back by the ushers. This morning, our Director of Lifetime's Faith Development, Lacey Adams, sent me the following video as our time for all ages. I'd like you to enjoy it now.
The End is Just the Beginning, written by Mike Bender and illustrated by Diana Mayo. The End. That's right. You read it correctly. You've reached the end and the beginning. But wait, how can a book possibly start with the end? That's ridiculous. Well, prepare to have your mind blown, because the end isn't really the end. It's just the beginning of something else. Like this beautiful sunset. Sure seems like the end of the day, right? Not so fast. You see, when the sun goes down, it's actually just the beginning of the night. When all the snow melts at the end of winter, it just means it's the beginning of spring. If you try to go to the ends of the earth, you'll actually just keep going back to the beginning, because the earth is just one big circle. If you blast off in a rocket ship, you'll reach the end of the sky, otherwise known as the beginning of outer space. When you count, the end of one number is just the beginning of the next number, and so on, and so on, and so on, all the way to infinity, which, by the way, never ends. Even a sign that literally says dead end isn't an end at all. It's only the beginning of whatever lies beyond it. So, when you really think about it, the end is entirely endless. The end of a disagreement with someone is just the beginning of making up. The end of a mistake is just the beginning of learning something new. The end of being sick is just the beginning of feeling better. The end of dinner is just the beginning of dessert. And if you're really, really well behaved, the end of dessert might just be the beginning of more dessert. So tonight, when you turn off the lights and go to bed, don't think of it as the end of anything. Just think of it as the beginning of a new tomorrow, full of possibilities. The beginning of discovering the next book.
Reverend Jen provided me this reading for this morning. It's called Becoming Avraham by Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt. I needed to look up Rabbi Rachel. Fascinating person. She is a poet, an author, a rabbi. She is known for lots of her writings, but especially commentary on the Torah. And this is one of her lessons from the Torah. Because of her writings, Rabbi Rachel is known as the Velveteen Rabbi. Rabbi Rachel. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am El Shaddai. Walk in my ways and be blameless. I will establish my covenant between me and you, and I will make you exceedingly numerous. Abram threw himself on his face, and God spoke to him further. As for me, this is my covenant with you. You shall be the father of a multitude of nations, and you shall no longer be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I make you the father of a multitude of nations. That is from Genesis 17, 1 through 5, as we know it. Many years ago, a dear friend set out to read the Bible because she felt, I think rightly too, that it had a tremendous influence on English language literature. She chose the King James version, both because she felt it had had the most impact on English lit, and because she doesn't speak Hebrew. As she began to work her way through Genesis and came to this passage, she asked me, what's this name change about? What does it mean? Most simply, the change from Avram to Avraham involves the addition of one letter, the H sound. We pronounce the name of this letter as He, or Hey. Sarai's name is also changed in this week's, as she was reading it, Torah selection, in a similar way. The sound at the end of the name Sarai is changed to the He at the end of Sarah. The letter He is one of our ways of denoting God. He means Hashem, the name, the Holy One of blessing. Some sources in our tradition read the added He as a symbol of God's presence. Avram becomes Avraham. Sarai becomes Sarah. In both cases, the added letter signifies God. Other sources relate the letter He to breath. Certainly that is how the letter sounds when vocalized. He. And remembering that God breathed the breath of life into the first human, see the added He as a sign of divine spirit. A change in name can signal a change in destiny. It's worth noting that in the passage I quoted at the start of this commentary, God introduces God's self as El Shaddai. Remember that God has many names in Jewish tradition. This name can be understood to be related to the Hebrew root, which means breasts, so it can be read as a name of divine mothering and compassion. Can we imagine that in the He, which our ancestors received, here was some of that motherly compassion and kindness? At the start of this week's scripture selection, God commands Avram, Lech lecha, go you forth, or as many of us translate it, go forth into yourself. Maybe it's only once Avram has gone forth into himself. Once he has done the inner work of self-discovery and discernment, that he becomes ready to receive the changed name, which implies a deeper awareness of God's presence, a deeper connection to spirit and soul, a deeper connection to motherly kindness and compassion, a deeper connection to Torah, which he can then pass down to all of us. May it be so. Oh, I don't sit down yet. When we reflect, and Reverend Jan, I apologize. I just realized that I left out a very important part of that reading. My eyes just glanced over the paragraph, and it's the most important part of the reading. So let me go back and read it, and then we will come to our time of candles of community. Jewish tradition places deep importance on names. There's an old saying that when parents name our children, we experience a thrill of prophecy, since in giving a child a name, we create some of that child's destiny. And you've probably heard of, and perhaps even experienced, the old custom of changing someone's name if they are very ill. The folk tradition says it's to fool the angel of death. But I think it has also to do with a deep and inchoate sense that when someone's name changes, new possibilities are opened up. I have many friends in Jewish renewal who have changed their names or taken on second Hebrew names at moments of great personal transformation in their lives for this reason. This especially affected me, I'm speaking as Bob now, because we in this church have many people among us who have changed their names during a time of personal transformation. And the concept is as old as the Torah and as new as yesterday. Now, we come to a time where we speak sometimes of transformations, of joys that we have, of sorrows that we hold in our hearts through our ritual of candles of community. When I call for you to come forward, you can line up on either side of the sanctuary. When it's your turn, come forth, take the microphone, tell us your name and what it is that you hold in your heart that you want to express. When you're done, give the microphone to the next person in line. Reverend Jen will light a candle for you while you speak. For those of you on Zoom, if you have joys, the chat will open for you, and you can put them in the chat, and I will read them last. Are there joys and sorrows among us today? Now, Reverend Jen will light one last candle for us, for all those joys and concerns that we hold in our hearts but are too tender to express.
Good morning. I'm Erin Walzewski, and I'm here to talk about sharing our abundance. Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you have one of these in your house? Okay, by a new show of hands, how many of you know what this is? See, there's actually a different number of hands up now than there was for the last question, and I saw some people going, honey, do we have one of these? Who can tell me what this is? Oh, it's an angel food cake pan. It does have a hole in the middle, so it's like a bump pan. We actually discovered the difference recently, a couple days ago, when I had one but not the other. This is an angel food cake pan. My mother-in-law recently gave me a recipe for a new way to make angel food cake, and I said, I don't have an angel food cake pan. And my sister, who lives across the street from me, ran this one over so that I could make the cake. So this is not mine, this is my sister's. But I say this because in that short story, there are two examples of how I have a social network. My mother-in-law gave me the recipe for the cake, And then when I didn't have the equipment, my sister brought over the pan. Lots of people, though, don't have that social network. And when we talk about sharing our abundance, we talk about things that we have that not everybody is so lucky to have. And one of the organizations we support on a regular basis is IPM, Interparish Ministry. They do all sorts of different things. You might know them best for their food pantry, but today, as we're thinking about new beginnings, I wanted to tell you about one of their programs called Fresh Start Kitchen. Fresh Start Kitchen gives equipment to people who are starting in a new home, particularly in two different circumstances. If they've been in their home for less than 2 months because they have recently experienced homelessness or because they're fleeing from domestic violence and they're in a new apartment or in a new kitchen, a lot of times you don't have stuff. And I'm not talking about an Angel food cake pan usually. I'm talking dishes, silverware, cups, plates, pots and pans, a colander, things like that to cook things for. So Fresh Start Kitchen takes referrals from 3 different partner organizations here in Cincinnati and sets people up with the stuff they need to take care of themselves and their family. So when we're giving to IPM and when we're thinking about all sorts of different things, Fresh Start Kitchen is one that you can think about as part of the new year. A fresh start. Think about what it would be like to go to a new apartment or a new home and have nothing there, and then to turn the corner and see boxes of things, boxes of dishes, of cutlery, of things that you can use to take care and nourish yourself and your family. That's really what Fresh Start Kitchen is about. I have no idea if they give them Angel food cake pans or not, but we can assume that they give, I'm guessing not. I think that comes later. But when you support them, you are supporting programs, not just including the food pantry, which is another very important program, but also Fresh Start Kitchen. So if you're on Zoom, the link is in the chat, and here in the sanctuary, we welcome your gifts. And I should have said this, in case you're visiting the church or watching this for the first time on Zoom, every week when you collect our offering, 100% of it goes outside of the church to a nonprofit organization. So with that, we welcome your contributions to IPM.
Near the end of my 3 years in seminary, I enrolled in the required clinical pastoral education course. Some of you may know about this. Known as CPE, this is a time of ministry education when those pursuing ordination spend several months as chaplains in a hospital. As a student chaplain, I was invited into some of the most difficult times in a patient's life. And sometimes we were present for the end of a patient's life. And I want to tell you a story about that particular aspect of CPE. I was on call when the nurses summoned the chaplains because they thought that a woman was about to pass away. When I arrived, I asked a few questions and discovered she was Catholic, her family was overseas, and she was alone. So I went to her room with my book of prayers that they give all the chaplains and held her hands and prayed with her. She was unconscious at the time. It was a sacred, quiet time. And as I listened to her breathing, I worked to offer comfort for her, for her family, people I knew who wished they could be present with her in that time. I held her hand, offering a presence she may have felt or she may not have, and prayed. But eventually I set aside the book and I prayed the Lord's Prayer over and over, because I knew it was something that she would have heard her entire life as a Catholic. I hoped she could hear me and that she felt loved. And then at some point I moved even beyond the familiar traditional prayers. I put my hand on her head and I just started talking to her, telling her it was okay to go if she was ready, that she was loved, that her work, her life had purpose, that she had done well. From what the nurses had shared with me, I knew a little about her and who she had been in life. I knew a few of her mistakes, but her regrets, none of our regrets matter so much in these moments when we're on the edge of transition. She needed to hear she was loved. And when she took her last breath and crossed that final threshold to the mystery beyond, it was her final breath, that last moment when she was connected to her body, that let me know she was gone. I sat with her for a short time. There are many religious traditions that share a sense that the spirit lingers for a period of time after leaving the body. And when it felt right, I got the nurses. 4 of them followed me back into the room and asked me to pray over her body before they went to work. It was another sacred moment. I realized they had been the ones with her as she approached this final threshold. They cared about her. And the request for prayer was as much for them as her in that moment. I was acutely aware during that time that I was a proxy person for this woman's family, her friends, for everyone who would grieve the news of her passing. It is our breath that marks important thresholds in our lives. Our first breath marks the threshold that begins our independent life as a being separate from our mother's body. My colleague, Reverend Caitlin Cotter-Colberg, has this to say: I've always found early morning to be a holy time. Not that I necessarily want to be awake then. Sometimes what is holy is also difficult. And as a new parent, early morning has taken on new levels of sacred. Now I hold my crying son against my chest and he quiets, breathing warm against my neck as I murmur lullabies. That warm breath makes my eyes prickle. She says, in Judaism, my spouse tells me life begins with first breath. And as I stand there swaying, life in my hands, I find myself thinking about the ancient Greek concept of pneuma, breath of life and inspiration, of the Latin verb spiro, that the internet assures me means to both to breathe and to be alive. And I think of when I birthed our baby. Before then, he was a possibility, a fetus, an image on an ultrasound, a kick against my insides. With that first cry, first breath, he became a person in the world. She goes on to say, when we lost an earlier pregnancy at 12 weeks, it was the possibility, the dream that we grieved, that we will always grieve. I watched our son's breath too closely sometimes, remembering the one that never became a breathing baby. Grief and joy are a weight in my arms in the early morning light. Rainbow baby, we call our newborn, a child born after loss. We knit him rainbow things, draw him rainbow dragons, take photo shoots of him with the first page of Harry Potter, that chapter titled clear in the camera of my phone, The Boy Who Lived. In the first part of my labor, before the blessed epidural, the sacred indeed comes in many forms, I sang through the pain, song helping me to breathe, breathing in and out, quietly singing. I continue to carry my pain and joy forward. She says, with that first cry, first breath, he became a person in the world. As we heard in our reading today, one of the ways of denoting God in Judaism is the letter an out-breath. Our first and last breath as a connection with the divine, with the spirit of life. Have you considered that? Every breath you take, connecting you more deeply to the spirit of life and love. I'm going to invite you to join me in an experiment. Get comfortable how you're sitting and take a deep breath. When you took a deep breath, did you inhale first, then exhale? Do you have to think about it? Yes. That's what we do most often. So I want you to try something. This time, exhale, then inhale. Ready? Okay. Exhale, inhale. How was that? Did it feel different? Yeah. Betsy Poulton, a movement and breathing specialist, says that the exhalation is the most important part of our breath and the part we pay the least attention to. We can neglect to exhale fully, leading to shallow breathing, which causes a raise in anxiety. In addition to encouraging deep, full, relaxing breaths, exhaling fully and intentionally creates room in our bodies and spirits. It allows space for something new in our next inhalation. The word respiration comes from the same Latin root as the word spirit. Our breath holds the key to the most transformational thresholds in our lives. The deeply spiritual moments of birth and death. But our birth and death are not the only thresholds we face. Every breath we take may be an opportunity to engage a new threshold. Every breath is an opportunity to release something into the world or to invite in something new, something else into our lives. If an exhalation brings us to the edge of a threshold, imagine how often we've reached them. Every deep laugh involves breathing, spirit. We breathe out to call the name of one we love, to give the gift of a name to our children. We sob our breath in times of grief and loss. When a loved one breathes for the last time, we catch our own breath in shock. We gasp or exhale, in moments of surprise, moments of wonder, times of joy. We cry or sing out our breath when new life enters this world. Our breath marks these moments. As we approach the end of this year, we're approaching another threshold, a time to pause, to breathe, and consider. This congregation is on the threshold of an important transition in the coming year. As you consider 2024, what do you want to leave behind you in this year? What are you ready to release? What do you hope to embrace to breathe in the new year, as a congregation and as individuals. A practice in some UU congregations started by Tim Atkins is to choose a word for the year, a grounding focus. Tim shares some of the words he has chosen: joy, embrace, explore, delight, authenticity, roots, blossom. And I know I just sprung this on you, so you haven't had any time to think about it, but I'd like to invite you to take a couple of minutes to share with the people around you, or to just talk with the people around you. What words might intrigue you if you were to engage in this practice as a grounding idea for the coming year, either for you as an individual or maybe even for the entire congregation? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to talk to each other. One more minute. Does anybody want to call out a word or two you thought of? Does anybody want to say a word or two? Intention. Nice. Strength. Curiosity. Explore. Community. Explore. Challenge. Nice. Uncertainty. Ooh, powerful. Release. Fear and trembling. Calm. You should get together with fear and trembling. Choosing a word is another opportunity to breathe and consider how you wish to enter the coming year. I invite you to take another breath as we come back together. Our time in this world with one another is sacred, and taking a deep breath invites us to settle more deeply into ourselves and our connection with one another, with the divine, with God, with the spirit of life and love. My beloved spiritual companions, breathe. Exhale, inhale. Breath marks the changes in our lives. May we recognize these sacred movements of our bodies and spirits, and may we embrace the thresholds as we encounter them. Blessed be. Amen.
Check. Oh, there we are. Speaking of breathing, we're all going to sing for our closing hymn, Meditation on Breathing. And it's actually got 3 parts to it. So we have...
We're a small but mighty group today, so I'm going to teach you the 3 different parts, and you get to choose.
Which one you want to sing?
That's a very good thing to do. So we're going to sing once through the melody, and then I'm going to teach you the other 2 parts. And so this is the melody. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
That's the whole thing.
So you breathe in peace and you breathe out love. And then for the people who would rather sing fewer words, we have this part. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. There, see, that's pretty easy. And then here's a higher part. After it comes in, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. There, see? You get to choose. Melody, fewer words and notes, or the high part. All right, so the first time, let's all sing the melody, when I breathe in, and then after that, you get to choose. We'll do it 3 times total. Here we go. 1, ready, sing. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe. Some of you keep singing that. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. Oh yeah, see? When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. And I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Oh, that was very good. More of you should be in the choir.
Gather around and hold hands and say our benediction. We are a small crowd, so to avoid the stretching that we normally do to incorporate our tech staff back there, can we have one line going down the middle instead of on the outside? Going down the middle and then on the outside over here. And that way we'll be able to capture the Should be able to capture the people at the back. So much for avoiding the stretching. That's got it. May the Spirit of life, that each of us possesses, flow from one to another. May it stay with us, and bring us peace and harmony until we meet again.
Just extinguish.